Hey everybody, welcome to day 3 of Ethical Profits in Crisis. Thanks for everybody for joining. So before we get too far into topics for today, just a little show of virtual hands inside the chat or the comment area in Facebook. Just let me know how many of you had the opportunity to develop an ad that you can use for your marketing to homeowners. So just let me know in the comment section if you were able to put together an ad that you would use for marketing to homeowners, whether it be on Kijiji or Craigslist or in Facebook groups, or if you're going to use paid marketing. Regardless, just let me know if you did the homework last night. So just say, yes, I created an ad, because nobody sent me anything and I didn't see anything posted inside the group. So either nobody did the homework or you did it and you just didn't want me to take a look at it or something like that. So just let me know if you did it or did not do it. Because nobody sent me anything and I didn't see anything posted inside the group. So it looks like I've got something. Or did not do it because nobody sent. Okay, that was the problem. I had my Facebook turned on my computer. All right, so Sheldon, he created an ad. Very good. If you want me to take a look at it, Sheldon, just you can just send it to me by private message or email, or post it in the Facebook group. So Nathan says he didn't do one. So Nathan, take the information from yesterday's slideshow. There was a lot of good information in there, as well as the documents that I uploaded last night for headlines, and then the checklist for creating copy. But there was a lot of information in yesterday's slides that even if you use the information there, where I basically created an example of an ad, if you took that information, you could repurpose it pretty much and come up with an ad for homeowners. There was a 207 headline formulas for giving you lots of ideas for coming up with headlines. So yeah, just go through some of that information that I posted last night. I think there's 4 or 5 different documents. Just go through some of that information and put something together. And then send it off for me to take a look. Don't expect it to be, I don't care. Just send me something and I'll help you out. If you don't send me anything, I can't help you out. But if you send me something, then I'll be able to help you out with your ad. All right, so anyone that's just joined me, I was just talking about yesterday's homework. So it was to create at least one ad for attracting homeowners to contact you. So just let me know in the comments section if you did your ad or not, if you did that part of the homework. And if you want me to take a look at it, just send it to me. And then once you have the ad, I want you to start posting it on either Kijiji or Craigslist or social groups, anywhere that you can post it for free, and see if you can generate some traffic, have people calling you or contacting you on the ad, because that's the whole purpose, is getting people to contact you. So you can potentially take over their home on a lease option strategy, so then you can utilize it to turn around and make some money and eventually start fielding some calls. So that's the purpose of creating the ad. So hopefully, if you didn't get a chance to do it last night or today, I highly recommend that you go through the information that I uploaded yesterday. Definitely go through the video, yesterday's video, take the PowerPoint slides that I created and that I used in yesterday's video, and go through that information. And you pretty much, there's an ad that I've already created in those slides. Take that, go through the other documents that I uploaded, and from all of that, you should be able to come up with a pretty good ad. So today, as two main things we're going to talk about today. The first one is how to make $10,000 a month doing 2 deals a year. So this is using the lease option strategy, with the exit strategy being that of a rent-own. So we're going to take over the properties on a lease option, and then we're going to turn them into a rent-own. So we're going to talk about that today. So this is the exit strategy that I primarily use. Like I said, I've done some of the other exit strategies on when I've taken over properties on a lease option, but this is my go-to one, and I'm going to show you why here shortly. And then after we go through this, we're going to talk about how to actually screen a tenant buyer to set them up for success in order to do a rent-own. Okay, so we all know that this 5 days is all about getting the property on a lease option. So today I'm just going to take a little bit of time and focus on the exit strategy of rent-own. So we're working on the first part, which is getting the home. The second part is putting a person in there that's going to end up buying the property at the end. Okay, so we're going to walk through how to make $10,000 a month doing 2 deals a year. So in the very first year, January, February, March, you know, you get started in January. It's you don't get your first property until March. You've got the property, and then you find a tenant buyer. You put them in. They give you $7,500 down. However, you had to give the homeowner $100, and then you're also making $500 a month cash flow on that particular property. Now, the cash flow is made up typically of 2 parts. One is the difference between the rent. I do know that in some provinces you have to, the rent that you pay the owner, you actually have to pay the owner the same rent that you collect from the tenant buyer. In Alberta, I don't have to. I can pay the owner $1,700 and collect $1,900 rent. But I believe in Ontario and Manitoba, if you're paying the homeowner $1,700 rent, then the only thing, you can only charge the tenant buyer $1,700 rent. However, you can make it up in the option contract because they have to pay a monthly option payment. And the option payment, you can choose that all of it goes towards their down payment or only some of it goes towards their down payment. So in this case, there's a $500 difference between what you're collecting from the tenant buyer and then what you're paying the homeowner per month. Okay, so you get your first home and you put the tenant buyer in there, $7,500 up front, $100 of which you give the homeowner, and there's a monthly differential of $500 a month cash flow. 3 months go by, and you don't do anything other than the deal that you already have. So you're just going to collect the $500 a month for that one deal over the 3 months. Then July, August, and September rolls around. You decide that maybe I better do another deal. So in July, you start doing some work and you're looking for a property. You get a property. Now you find the tenant buyer. So in September, you put that deal together. You collect another $7,500, give the homeowner $100, and you're making another $500 a month cash flow. And don't forget that first deal, you also are going to make the 3 months of $500 per month. So for that three month time frame, you're looking at $9,400. And then you're totally worn out because you did 2 deals this year. You just you got to take a break for the rest of the year. So all you're going to do is just collect the $500 a month for the 2 deals for those 3 months. So that's $3,000. So that year you made $21,800 divided by 12 months, or $1,817 a month. Year 2 rolls around, after Christmas, you got New Year's, and it's like, oh, maybe I better do something. You start to look for a property, you pick up a property, and then you find a tenant buyer, and you marry those two people in March, the home and the tenant buyer. You collect your down payment again, or your initial option money of $7,500, give $100 to the homeowner, get another $500 cash flow. But don't forget, you've got $500 cash flow on 2 other deals that are getting added in for these 3 months as well. So you've got $10,900 for those 3 months. So you're completely exhausted after doing that deal. You better take 3 months off. So you collect your cash flow for $500 a month for 3 deals for 3 months. That's $4,500. And then the summer comes around, it's like, oh, I better do something. So you find a property, and then you find a tenant buyer, so that in September you put another deal together, $7,500 down payment, $100 of which you give to the owner, $500 cash flow again. And don't forget, you've got 3 deals going already, so you're collecting $500 a month on 3 deals over these 3 months for another $12,400. And then you're beat, you're exhausted. You know, it's time for Thanksgiving, then Christmas right around the corner. You got better take some time off. So you're just going to collect the $500 a month cash flow on the 4 deals you now have over the 3 months, or $6,000. So at the end of year 2, you've made $33,800, and divide that by 12, $2,817 a month average. Then we're getting into year 3. Like, okay, just after Christmas, after New Year's, I better do something again. So when you find another property and you get a tenant buyer, you put that deal together in March, $7,500 down payment, you give $100 to the homeowner, another $500 a month cash flow. And don't forget, you've got $500 cash flow on 4 deals over those 3 months as well. So total of $13,900. Next 3 months, you're just going to take off. You're just going to relax. Maybe you're going to go on vacation. So you got $500 a month and 5 deals running at 3 months, so $7,500. And then the next 3 months is like, okay, now I'm back in action. I better do something over the summer, get a property and get somebody in there for September, and that's just what you do. Another $7,500 down. Give the homeowner $100 to make the option contract legal, like we do every time. You're going to make another $500 a month cash flow, and then don't forget, you've got the cash flow of the $500 on the 5 other deals that you're collecting over these 3 months as well for $15,400. The next 3 months go by, you decide to take off, so you just get the $500 a month for 6 deals over 3 months. That's $9,000. For a total of $45,800 divided by 12 is $3,817 per month on average. Now is when things start to get interesting, start to heat up, because now the deal that you did in year 1, in March of year 1, is now going to come to fruition. It's time to cash that puppy out. So, but you're also going to do another deal, because you're just going to keep this train rolling. So you do your deal, you get the $7,500. Give $100 to the homeowner. You get your $500 cash flow. This is the deal that you're doing in March. And don't forget the cash flow of $500 over the other 5 deals you've got going on over those 3 months. Plus the first deal that you put together in year 1, March of year 1, is now coming to a close, and you're closing on that deal. And when that deal closes, you're going to make $36,000 off the end of that deal. So that's a grand total of $51,400. The next 3 months go by, and as usual, you decide that you're going to take 3 months off. You're going to do a little celebration. You know, you got a hangover for the next 3 months. So you're just going to collect the $500 a month for 6 deals for those 3 months. That's $9,000. And over the next 3 months, you pick up another property like you do every summer, and you're putting a deal together for September. So you've got the $7,500 down payment, $100 of which you give the owner. You got your $500 a month cash flow. And don't forget, you've got the $500 cash flow on those 5 deals over those 3 months as well. But the property you picked up in the summer of year one is now closing in September as well, and you're going to cash that one out for 36 grand. So that puts another 51,400 in your pocket. And then the next 3 months go by, you're just not going to do anything. You're just going to collect the cash flow. So you've got 6 deals running at $500 per deal over those 3 months for 9 grand. So you've put it in $120,000, $120,800 into your pocket that year. Divide that by 12. Now you're making $10,000 a month on average. So now, as long as you just continue to pick up those 2 deals a year, you'll be continually getting that, and as long as the deals close, obviously, which is key. So finding the right tenant buyer for the properties is always key to closing these deals. But as long as you get the right people in the properties and they're working towards building their down payment and fixing their credit, you can just continue on after year 4. You just continue on putting a minimum 2 deals in a year, and you can be making on average $10,000 a month. Okay, so that's how you make $10,000 a month on just 2 deals a year using the lease option strategy, with the exit being a rent to own. Okay, so how does that sound to everybody? Everyone following along? I don't see many comments, so just let me know what your thoughts are. And it's actually not, if you're doing this semi-regularly and marketing on a regular basis, it's not that hard to get 2 deals a year. If you're marketing like I am continuously, then you should be picking up at least 1 property a month, if not more. Okay. So that's how to make $10,000 a month on just 2 deals a year. Any questions on any of the information that I just shared right now? Anybody, just type it in the comments section and let me know if you have any specific questions. So in order to make this happen, the exit strategy we focus on is the rent to own. So we use the lease option strategy to get the property from the homeowner for just $100 down, renting it, have the option to buy it in the future. So the other side of that is now we have to find the tenant buyer to put into the property. Nathan asked how much rent goes to the owner of the home. Well, Nathan, that depends on what you negotiate with the homeowner. So that's part of your negotiation. You decide how much you're going to pay them in rent. So I have a couple different options for myself personally. So I'm always looking to pay less than fair market rent. And when we get into tomorrow, which is presentation and negotiation, I'll show you how I negotiate down the rent price from the homeowner, and they still make more money when they work with me. Okay, so the rent is, I'm not going to say the rent is irrelevant, but in this scenario, the rent is whatever you can negotiate with the homeowner. Typically, you want to get it below fair market rent. Letitia asks, what if someone defaults? What is the percentage of deals gone bad? So I'll give you my personal story. When I first started, it was like I just needed, because remember, I lost my contract. I only had money for 3 months. I just needed to do deals. I needed that down payment money. That's all I was focused on when I first started this. Down payment money, and the person had the ability to pay the mortgage. So my process of screening tenant buyers was, let's just say, not the best. You know, I gave them the ability to, I made sure that they could qualify for the price point. I never put anybody in a property they couldn't afford, but we didn't make a conscious effort forcing them to work with a credit coach. So in the very early years of my career, the ones that did not complete is very high. Later on in my career with the current, with what I'm doing now, screening the tenant buyers, it's not as high, but there's two main reasons why. There's really only the two reasons right now why people don't complete with me. So once they're in this, for the last several years, there's only been two reasons why they don't complete the process. And nobody can predict these two reasons when they put somebody in a property. The first one is they lose their job. Nobody can predict that. They lose their job and they can't get one right away. So I don't care if you lose your job on a Friday and you get a new job on a Monday, that doesn't bother me. But if you lose your job and then a month goes by and you still don't have another job, and you're either in there by yourself or you're in there with your spouse and you just can't swing the payments anymore, then that becomes an issue. So job loss, which nobody can predict, is one of the main factors. The second one I've been having is the people are getting divorced. So they're not all the way through the program. So maybe if it's a 3-year program, maybe in year 2 or something, the end of year 1, year 2, or sometimes beginning year 3, they get divorced and one person leaves the property and the other person can't support the purchase of the property on their own and they have to leave too. So the success rate now is much higher using my screening process, but we can't predict the unpredictable, such as divorce, job loss. But we can do everything in our power to structure this and set everybody up for success, which is my whole program is designed to set everybody up for success. The tenant buyer is set up for success right from day one. The homeowner is set up for success right from day one. And I obviously set myself up for success, but we can't predict what's going to happen. So, you know, it's higher than 50% are finishing the program. If you're going to follow the qualification process that I'm going to share with you next, the screening process that I put tenant buyers through, if you were to follow the same screening process, rigid screening process, then you'll close a high percentage of the deals that you do. Now, for me, I would not rest on doing 2 deals a year, because let's say 50% of them fail, then you're not going to make the $10,000 a year or $10,000 a month average if 50% of the deals don't close. So you're better off. For me, I'm focusing on getting back to the point where I was when I was doing this early in my career, and that is a minimum 1 deal a month. So when I was doing this, focusing 100% full time on this, it was 1 deal a month. And so I'm shooting for a minimum 1 deal a month. I'm giving myself, since I just started the marketing again last month or last week, I'm giving myself a month to get the first property, but after that, I expect to get more than 1 property every month. I'm looking to get actually increase that to 1 a week. So I would not bank on, if you're just doing 2 deals a year, let's say it's 50-50 success rate, then you would probably need to get 4 deals a year in order to get to make sure that at least 2 of them are gonna finish at the end. And I'm just being transparent and honest, because if anyone thinks that they're gonna close 100%, like all the success in the world, that means that you've got like the rainbow unicorn of tenant buyers who never have anything go wrong in their life. And unfortunately, stuff goes wrong in people's lives. So hope that answered your question. But the biggest key is going to be the screening the tenant buyers. I'm going to walk you through that right now. So Jonathan asks, how would you offer this if the seller had a realtor? Well, I'm faced with a lot of those right now, Jonathan. So basically I tell the homeowner because they have an agreement with the realtor right now. There's nothing I can do until they take it off the market. So until the home is, because they have to sign agreements with me, very much like a realtor has a listing agreement. In my contracts, in the option contract is a built-in listing, almost like a built-in listing agreement. Basically, I'm giving myself 4 months to find somebody. Otherwise, the contracts become null and void. So I can't sign these contracts because if a homeowner signs these contracts with me, they can't sell the property, they can't rent the property, they can't refinance it. So they can't enter into my agreements if they have an agreement with a realtor. It just can't be done. So they either have to end their relationship with the realtor and get out of that. And they can do that just by saying, well, we have to rent our property, which in essence, that's what they're doing. Is they're going to rent their property to you. So they would have to get out of the rental or the listing arrangement with the realtor before we would enter into an agreement with them. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome on that. What's the downfall of not closing? Well, the downfall to you, the investor, is you don't make as much money. The downfall to the homeowner is, well, now they get their home handed back to them. So if the tenant buyer does not buy, you, the investor, still have the opportunity to buy the house. So you could choose to buy the house if you want to at the option price, and the option price is typically less than fair market value. So you could choose to buy it or get an investor to buy it. And otherwise, you just hand the home back to the homeowner as long as it's in the same condition, less normal wear and tear. And then you just go to the homeowner and say, listen, the person's not able to buy, or they, for whatever reason, they got out. And so you're faced with the same options you had when we first got started. You can either rent it yourself, or you can sell it with a realtor, or we can do this all over again and put it on another rent-own. So it's really going to depend on the homeowner and how much they need the cash out of the property. Maybe they can refinance it at that point to pull some cash out, and they'll want to do a rent. They'll want to put it back into the program with you. But that's the only downfall, is you don't make as much money. You personally, you've made money all along, because remember, you get the option money up front. You're making the cash flow every month, so you are making money. It's just that at the end, when it closes, you're not making that much larger amount of money. So that's the only downfall, is just you're not making as much money. But you're presenting the home back to the homeowner, and they can make the decision what they want to do with it at that point in time. All right, any other questions? If you do have, just type them in. I'm just going to get rolling on the tenant buyer process. And this is, once you have the property, this is sort of the next biggest key to your success if you're going to use the exit strategy of rent-own. And I highly recommend it because, one, you're going to make way more money cash flow. You get that lump sum down payment up front, and you have a built-in exit strategy at the end, okay? So the tenant buyer process, it all starts with us, is once they're interested and they say, okay, well, you need to fill in an application. So we send them the application. The application that I use is actually my mortgage broker's application with my contact information on it, my branding on it, and it also has the credit coach's authorization for pulling their credit. So when they fill it in, the mortgage broker is very familiar with the document because it's her document. And when it goes to the mortgage broker, she can do her thing. The credit coach can do his thing because they've given him authorization to pull the credit. So the application they fill in, they tell us how much of a down payment, shows what their monthly expenses are, their current employer, previous employer, previous address ×2. So where's the last few places that you lived? If they have any assets or liabilities. Like I said, the consent to have their credit pulled, that is our credit coach's consent. So when we send it, it goes directly to him. And also in there is a consent to that he's able to share the information with the mortgage broker. So my credit coach and my mortgage broker work closely together. So I send the application to both parties. The credit coach does his job first, gets all the information, goes through the credit, has a meeting with the clients, gives them sort of the game plan over the next however many years they need, tells them what they need to do, upsells them, tries to upsell them obviously on other services, such as him actually working with them, on a, maybe every 6 months, contacting them, reviewing the information, that kind of stuff. And then once he has the initial report and the findings, he sends that to the mortgage broker, and then she goes through it all and then plugs it into her analysis to determine if they could buy a home today, how much could they afford. So then she tells me a price point of a property that I cannot exceed. So she may come back and say, well, based on their current information today, if they were able to buy a house today, they could qualify for a $350,000 property. I said, okay. And the credit coach, when he does his job, he comes back to me and says, okay, John, after reviewing all the information, they need a minimum of 28 months. Okay, 28 months. Okay, so I'm gonna I'll make it for 36 months, give a little leeway there. So we'll just make it a 3-year term. So basically, based on his expert opinion, that tenant buyer can have their credit fixed in 28 months to the point where they are today to where they need to be to get a traditional mortgage at any lender. And that's a mortgage, not like a B lender, but through an A lender. So they'll be able to get it in 28 months. So, okay, I'm going to give them 36. So we'll do the program for 36 months. So by the end of the 36 months, their credit score should be at a point where they can get a mortgage from any lender out there. And then based on their current level of income, I know that I'm going to put them in a property that's under the $350,000 range, because I need to make sure it's under the 350. If they can qualify for 350, I don't want to put them in a home that's worth 350 today, because I need room to appreciate the purchase price of the property. So if I did a basic, let's say a 3.33% appreciation per year, which simple math works out to be 10% over the 3 years. So I take 350 and say take off 10% or so, that's 35,000. So I'm looking at a property somewhere's around $325,000 today's value, and then their end purchase price I'd make 350. Okay, so I need to make sure that I leave that room for appreciation. Should there actually be some, I have to, I want to be able to capture some of it if I can. If it doesn't appreciate that much, then I just reduce the price to whatever the fair market value or whatever the bank appraiser says it's worth at that time. I end up reducing the price. So that's part of the tenant buyer process. So like I said, I forward the applications, credit coach, mortgage broker. Credit coach works on how long they need for a term, and they work with the client to fix the credit. The mortgage broker tells me that ceiling price. This is the ceiling price of the property they could afford. So then I either put them in a property that meets the requirements that I actually have right now, if they were applying for a specific property, or I work on finding them a property in the area that they're looking that is in the price point that they want. So that's typically how I end up matching the two people together. It's very rare that you get a tenant buyers coming in and you get the house at the same time without them knowing, like, so that the tenant buyer is just finishing the qualification process and they're looking for the exact same home that you just made an arrangement with a homeowner. So that's very rare. It's usually you have one but don't have the other, and you have to market for the other. Okay, so you're always marketing for both things at the same time. So you're looking to find a property, and then you prepare the rent-own numbers for the tenant buyer. So letting them know, okay, this is how much you have to put down. Then you're going to need this much for rent, this much for your initial security deposit. Then every month you're going to make this much of a rent payment, and then you got to pay this much over and above that rent payment as a separate payment. And that over and above part is going to go towards your down payment. It'll get accumulated. So at the end, we've helped you build up a minimum of 5% down payment. So also you're responsible for the repairs and maintenance below $1,000. So all these numbers you prepare for the tenant buyer, showing them so they know exactly all the information, and you just put it on one little sheet: end purchase price, rent, monthly option, how much you need down, security deposit, all of that kind of stuff. You just put it on one little document. Here's the information. Here's what you're going to end up paying to get into the property. And then once they say, okay, the numbers look good, then you prepare the contracts for the tenant buyer for them to review and take to their lawyer. Okay, so then once you have the tenant buyers been through the screening process. So when it comes to the screening process, there's 3 parties involved. I mentioned myself, so I would be checking their employment. I'd be calling their bosses. I would be calling landlords, previous landlords, checking into all of that. I'll look up I'll search for them on social medias, look up all of their social accounts, and do a deep dive into like their social stuff to see what type of person they are. You know, are they always partying, or are they, you know, just in general, what type of person they are. The credit coach is going through the information. If any red flags come up, he's going to let me know. The mortgage broker goes through the information. Any red flags come up, they're going to let me know. So between the 3 of us, are working to ensure that the person that's going through the process is going to be highly motivated to do this. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that I actually have an application fee. It's $500, and because the credit coach does not work for free, so I have to pay the credit coach. So I'm not going to pay the credit coach. The credit coach, these people have to hire the credit coach in order for him to work with them and help them figure out their credit. So I'm very clear when a tenant buyer is talking to me on the phone. It's like, okay, so the credit is the most important thing, not just for getting into a rent-own, but for basically your life, for getting loans, for getting cars, for getting houses. Just credit score impacts so many areas of your life that the $500 is probably the best investment you're ever going to make with the credit coach in order for them to work with you, educate you, and help you fix some of the challenges that you have, so that in the future you're going to be able to get loans so much easier. You'll be able to get finance vehicles so much easier, get get the best interest rate at the bank for a mortgage. So all of this stuff, that small $500 investment is going to go a long way. So that $500 that they pay me, I make them pay me, and then I pay the credit coach. That $500 is sort of the first big hurdle for qualifying the tenant buyers, because any person who's not willing to pay $500, because I tell them it's like I collect the money and I pay the credit coach. And they say, well, why don't I just pay the credit coach? I said, no, because if I can help you get into a rent to own, if you pay me, I can credit that $500 towards your down payment, and I will. So you want to pay me, and I'll pay the credit coach. If you pay the credit coach and then you get into one of my rent to owns, I can't credit you that $500. But that $500 is the hurdle, the first big hurdle. So anyone not willing to invest $500 to fix their credit, it's not, the $500 is not to apply for a rent to own. The $500 is to hire the credit coach to help them fix their credit and to understand it. So if they're not willing to invest the $500, I have no use for these people. So that is my first big hurdle. So the people that are willing to invest the $500 are truly serious about their situation and wanting to actually buy a property. And once I implemented that, I've had nothing but great success with the tenant buyers. They're hardworking, they're serious. They listen to what I say, meaning they know that if they lose their job or something happens and they can't pay, they know that they have to leave the property, they can't stay in it, and they're not going to get any money back. So they're serious and they're so committed. They know all of this stuff up front. So that's huge. That is like a big, once I implemented that, I'm just getting, the people that come through the program are extremely committed. So then once they've had the contracts reviewed, even if they did not have them reviewed, they're going to sign an independent legal advice document that says that they were advised to seek legal advice. We'll sign the contracts. I'll collect all the money up front in bank draft or certified funds only. I'll collect the first month's option payment, bank draft, certified funds. I'll collect the first month's rent, same. And I'll collect the security deposit or last month's rent or damage deposit, whatever it is for your province, whatever you like to call it, as well in certified funds. So the two option payments can be on the same draft, and the rent and the security deposit can be on the same draft, but I need to have at least two different drafts because we have to break down the option from the rent. And have a copy of their insurance policy. So they have to have additional insurance for the property. They will not, I don't know why it says bank draft and certified funds. They're not paying me. But they have to have a copy of their insurance policy. They will not get keys until they have that copy of that insurance policy and I actually see it. So if they don't have it, after we've gone through the move-in checklist, the move-in inspection, got all the money, signed the contracts, if they don't have that insurance policy, they're not getting the keys until I actually have it. And a void check to automatically withdraw money from their account or post-dated checks. Then you do the move-in inspection. You walk through the property with the tenant buyer as they do their inspection. I'll typically take between 100 and 200 pictures of the property. Basically, I want a picture of every square inch of this place, every fixture, every appliance, inside, outside, every square inch of this place. I want to know what it looks like. I have I forget stuff from today. I have a terrible memory, so I need documented proof. and I never give these pictures to homeowners. These are for my own purposes in case I ever need to go back, in case I need them in court or I need to do something with the tenant buyer, in case there's ever a dispute. But I never give them to the homeowner. This is my process. Make sure they try all the appliances and the lights, try everything, make sure it works, and get them, then they would sign off that it all works. I always buy 2 brand new fire extinguishers for the property. Kitchen, one for the kitchen, one for the furnace room. And I always buy CO2 detectors, usually 2 CO2 detectors if it's a 2-story, and smoke detectors. So I make sure there's 2 of each, and they're going to sign a document stating that there's 2 of each and that they work. And at that point in time, provided I have the insurance document, I would hand over the keys. Okay. So just any questions? I'm just going to go through some of the, I see that there were some questions that came up while I was going through that. So I'm just going to go through some of the questions and give some answers. What is the average length of time you do a lease option with the seller? I always go for 3 years for the seller. And the reason being that every approximately 90 to 95% of the people that I do rent to owns with, so the tenant buyer, needs between 2 and 3 years. So I just automatically go for the 3-year option with the seller. Now, if I get a really good candidate that comes in for a tenant buyer and they need shorter, then I go to the homeowner and say, listen, I got a great candidate, but they only need 18 months. So, you know, we're going to probably end up closing in 18 months. Or really good candidate, but they need 4 years. It's like, okay, Mr. Homeowner, you want to add it? Like, I got the great person and we need 4 years. But my go-to is always 3 years, because I know that 90 to 95% of the tenant buyers that I deal with coming to me are going to be between that 2 to 3 year mark. So I'm always going for the 3 years with the homeowner. Where do I find a credit coach? So my credit coach is in Calgary, and he wrote a book. Of course, I can't remember it. Let me see. Just let me pull up his website, and I'll give you his website. He works with investors as well as clients right across the country because it's all virtual. All right. So if somebody could, it's ecreditfix.ca. The letter E, the word credit, the word fix.ca. If somebody could just type that in the comment section, that is the credit coach that I use. If you're going to contact them, message them, just let them know that I sent you. Okay. I will send them an email tonight telling them that I informed the group that I gave his name out, just so he's not inundated with emails and phone calls. So ecreditfix.ca, his name is Richard Moxley, and he's based out of Calgary, but he works with clients right across the country, both investors, a lot of rent-to-own people. So him and I have worked together for quite some time, and we have a specific, there's a specific rent-to-own sort of credit coaching thing that he does with my clients. So you can just say, you know, that you work with me, and it's like, okay, I want the John McCabe. You know, if I send any people to you, I'd like the John McCabe credit coaching for my clients, and he'll know exactly what it is. What happens if the seller only has 20 months left on the term before the renewal? Okay, Carol, that's happened to me lots. It's no big deal. We'd still sign the agreement for 3 years. So at the time when they're ready for renewal, they'll go into their bank to renew the mortgage. It may come up that you have to, because you have caveats on the property that, and they can't sometimes, if they're switching mortgages, you have to, in order for them to refinance or renew with a different company, you have to release the caveat off their property. So it may come up where you actually have to release the caveat off the property and put it right back on the property as soon as it's done. So that's a tricky one. You definitely want to make sure that you have a relationship with the homeowner, because you do not want to be releasing caveats just willy-nilly. You definitely want to make sure that, because once you take the caveat off, basically you need to know specifically a specific time frame. The bank has to give you a very specific time frame of when they need it released, and you're going to let them know, it's like, okay, I will have it removed by this date, but then I'm putting it right back on like this date. So you're giving them a small window where they would actually, where the bank would have to do their stuff, because you don't want the caveats off the property for very long. Okay, even though you still have legal agreements with the homeowner, and the homeowner still technically can't do anything, and you're only releasing it just for the caveats. I would actually get the homeowner's lender, the bank, to write a letter to you requesting it for the specific purpose that they need to refinance their house, or they need to renew the mortgage. But I would tell the homeowner that you need a letter from the bank requesting it, not just to take the homeowner's word for it. All right. To Michael, good line of thinking. I like that. I think that was referring to the $500 for the credit coach that I collect. Do you continue to pay the seller while you're finding a tenant? No. Basically, the way I work now, like I said, if maybe you missed it, but in my option contract, I have it's almost like a listing agreement, very much similar to what a realtor would have. So basically, they give me time to find a tenant buyer. So I am not paying them if I don't have a tenant buyer. And even one of my options is a guaranteed option where I pay them guaranteed, but that does not kick in. I never have it kick in any less than 90 days from the day that I signed the agreement. Typically, it's between 90 and 115 days before I would actually start paying. So if I signed for August 1, so August, September, October, I would not pay the owner. We signed the agreements for August 1. The latest I would pay them would, as per the agreement, would be November 15th. So if I get somebody in early, I obviously pay them early, but I don't have to start paying them until that date. So because I just need time to find a tenant buyer. That's why you always want to be looking for tenant buyers and marketing for tenant buyers. If this is the exit strategy you're going to use, marketing for tenant buyers at the same time you're marketing for properties. And you'll get a good sense of which properties are going to be easy to fill. The ones in highly sought after areas that show very well, they're fairly new, you know, maybe some upgrades in the property. Those are the ones that are going to be easy to fill. It's the ones that are really outdated. The interior is outdated, or they're just not in very nice neighborhoods, things like that. Those are going to be tougher to fill. So, but in my agreements, I have I put right in there when the date that I'm going to start paying them, and it's always at least 90 days in advance. Why you don't take a video instead? Oh, a video of the property. Actually, I started doing that on some of them, doing videos instead of picture taking. So I've done both, pictures and videos. Does this work if the seller doesn't have much equity or is underwater? Yeah, this works like gangbusters for any owner that is either underwater or doesn't have much equity. This works like crazy. But sometimes the issue there is you got to be careful of how much their monthly payment is. You can definitely step in, and I've done this because back in when I was doing this in 09, remember 08, like there was an actual crash in the market. So I was lease optioning properties that were worth less than the mortgage that was on them. And it will all sort itself out, but you just need time. So if the homeowner tried to sell it at that point in time, not only was there was that additional part of the mortgage, so the mortgage was up here and the value was here. So there was not only that part that they had to deal with, but at that point in time, the bank was just killing people with the prepayment on the mortgages. It wasn't the 3 months of payments. They were coming after the interest differential for the entire term of the mortgage. So if there was 4 years left on it, they wanted the entire interest for those 4 years to be paid out as well. And then they're suing the owners if they sold the property, because you can only sell the property if you clear the title. If you can't clear the title, so homeowners were just going into foreclosure. But this works because it allows the mortgage to get paid down, and potentially, hopefully, the home will come up a little bit. But time fixes all real estate issues. It's just a matter of how much time is it going to take to fix that issue. So, Jonathan, it depends on how far underwater they are. But definitely the ones that don't have much equity, those would be your people that bought with 5% down with CMHC. Now they're almost 100% financed. They've owned it for less than 5 years. I don't know if you heard my story. On my first personal home that I bought in 2000, this is before I knew how to do any real estate. The only thing I knew what to do was sell it. My life, I was changing my life circumstances at the time, and I decided I needed to sell my home, and I'd only owned it for 3 years. And, I did the 5% down, they had the CMHC. I only owned it for 3 years. The home market was just barely going up, so there's not much appreciation. After I basically put it on the market and sold it and paid everybody out, I put less than $3,000 in my pocket. So basically I did not do well on that deal, selling my own personal residence. So I didn't even come close to getting my down payment back. Like I only walked away with $3,000. So yeah, I vowed I would never sell a house traditionally again. But this works perfect for those types of people. Ones with, yeah, if you're getting homeowners that own their home less than 5 years and they need to sell it, this is the best solution for them. Because they're going to end up walking away with nothing. If they sell their home, they're going to walk away with nothing. So this is it for them, man. Thanks for typing the e-credit fix in there. Appreciate it. Sheldon says, I have lots of tenant buyers, just no homes. Well, Sheldon, hopefully you'll be able to pick up some homes. Hopefully with the ad that you created. And then, like I said, tomorrow we'll go through the presentation, presenting to homeowners, as well as the negotiations. So we'll do that tomorrow. Would you do this yourself? You be the tenant buyer? Well, Stuart, let me tell you, I have not owned a home for quite some time, and all the properties I've lived in for years have all been homes I lease option with the homeowner. So I lease option it, and it's like, I think I'll live here, with no intent of buying it. I never told the homeowner that, but actually, and sometimes I would just, you know, if a place wasn't, if I was in between places and I had a vacancy come up, I would just move into it for a while until I could find a tenant buyer, or I just settle into it. So I've done this, living in properties that I lease option from homeowners. I've done this quite a bit. Now I did it with really no desire to buy the property, but you could do this for yourself. And buy the property. You just have to be cautious, because obviously you don't want anything in your name, and even the corporations that the option and the lease is with, you would not want to be on as any signing authority, either yourself or your spouse or anybody with the same last name. You do not want to be, you can own all the shares, because that's not part of the public record, who owns the shares, but the signing authority and all of that, the bank can see all that information, and they're going to question it. If you're the signing authority on the corporations and you're the one buying the property, it's very questionable. So yes, you can do this if you're going to, even if you want to buy a property, but you just have to be cautious in how you structure it. When you take title, does the bank or the lender ever cash in on the due on sale? You don't actually take title, Jonathan. You have a lease and an option to purchase it, and you're just registering those agreements against the title. You do not take title ever, and the tenant buyer never takes title until the title does not change hands until the house is actually bought by somebody. So there's never that due on sale clause is ever enacted, because nobody's on title except the homeowner. We're just registering our documents against the title. So the lease and the option get registered to protect ourselves and our interest in the property, so that the homeowner can't rent it or sell it or anything else. And we're also notified should the homeowner ever default on the mortgage, or the taxes, or the condo fees, or the homeowner association, and it's going to go into foreclosure, then we're notified. But that's not an issue in a lease option, Jonathan. Katie says she has some interest in tenant buyers. Well, for those who, Sheldon, Katie, the ones that tenant buyers, man, people, sorry, you want to do that $500 hurdle. I'm telling you, for the application process, the $500 hurdle. You collect it, send it off to the credit coach, and anyone that's not willing to invest the $500 to fix their situation, they're not really tenant buyers. They're interested but not committed. That's the best way to put it. They might be interested, but they're not committed. Stuart says, cool, I was singing this for myself. Johnson says, thanks. All right, so let's get back to, if you have any more questions, just type them in. So I'm gonna go through the actual sandwich lease option. So a sandwich lease is, you've got the homeowner here, you've got the tenant buyer here, and you see my big head's in the middle. So it's like a sandwich, right? So the investor's in the middle, the homeowner, the tenant buyer. So you're leasing the property from the homeowner, the option to buy, and you're giving an option and subleasing to the tenant, and you're the person in the middle controlling the whole thing. It's called a sandwich lease option. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of a sandwich lease option. You need to build your tenant buyer database, handle the phone calls. So when the potential tenant buyers, there's a client questionnaire. I'll upload that client questionnaire into the Facebook group tonight. Obviously, you're going to locate suitable properties at the same time as you're doing this. You call houses for rent. If you're the type of person that's going to make calls, you can call on houses for rent, houses for sale. You can actually make a call. I prefer the introverted method of having them contact me. That's just my style. But for the people who don't mind making phone calls and say, hey, listen, are you interested into renting your house for 2 to 3 years and then selling it? Something like that. Contact homeowners and properties, gather information. I uploaded that property questionnaire one yesterday. I'll do the client questionnaire tonight. That's for the tenant buyer. Obviously, once you get a home, you need to do comparables. You need to determine what the fair market value is, not only for the purchase price, today's value, but also you need to do that for the rent. Determine how much profit is going to be in the deal. I'll upload a document, a PDF that you can just make copies of and just sort of, and you can use it for calculating how much money would be in the deal for you. You want to meet the owner on site to do a walkthrough, so you can, and if you have a little rent-own flyer, like here's what our company does, you know, we'll pay the rent on time, guaranteed, or we'll look after all the repairs and maintenance to $1,000 per instance. Or if you have some sort of little marketing thing that you come up with, you obviously want to take that with you when you're meeting with the homeowner. If you're still doing meetings in person, like now, I'm actually not even meeting the people in person. I'm just doing everything online. And I'll eventually have to go, when a homeowner says yes and I have the contracts ready, I'll actually go to the property because I need to actually see the property, or somebody needs to see the property to make sure, to see what type of condition it is in. Because I may get there and say, yeah, this property is not for me, and choose not to take it on, or then maybe question the comparables or the fair market value. It's like, oh, I thought it was you know, better than this or worse or whatever. Fill out the rent-own questionnaire with information needed to complete the paperwork. Have the homeowners complete the contracts. Obviously, you're going to provide the contracts to them and tell them they need to seek legal advice. Give them time to review it, come back, and they either went to the lawyer or they didn't. Either way, they're going to sign an independent legal advice telling them that they were told to seek legal advice. So you also have an offer to purchase contract at the same time. And if you have multiple tenant buyers interested in the same property, you'd want to bring them all together at the same time, meeting outside, and just take them in one at a time, just to show, like, create that competition and sense of urgency. So if you can arrange, if you have a property and you got a bunch of tenant buyers, just show it, instead of showing it every time somebody calls that they're interested. Say, okay, well, we have on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. If you want to meet us there, we have a showing at that time. We'll just meet you outside the building, and you tell everybody that calls, yeah, Wednesday at 7:30, Wednesday at 7:30. You take down all the names when they're calling you, and you go there, and 3, 4, 5 people are there. It's like, okay, find out who they are and say, okay, we'll just go one at a time. So Sally and Jim, you want to come with me? And then you make the others wait outside. So you want time with everybody. Also creating that sense of competition and urgency is like, oh, you better act, like you better make an offer or not an offer, but make a decision fairly quickly. Have your tenant buyer meet, actually step 12, I do step 12 before I even get to this point. That's the first thing I do when a tenant buyer is calling in, because I don't want to waste my time with anybody if they haven't gone through this process. So I'll have to redo this because step 12 actually should come way ahead of all of this. I used to do it this way. I would wait until I had an interested person in the house. So I'd show everybody I'd take everybody the property, show them the property. And then when the person says, yeah, I'm interested in this place, then I would actually do the application. But now if somebody calls me, it's like, you need to do the application process before we even start. So I've changed, the way I do it now is a little bit, I'll have to go back and change that. Complete the tenant buyer sign-in. So this is the completing the contracts with the tenant, the lease contract, the option contract, getting your money, and then doing the move-in inspection. All of this obviously does not happen at the exact same time. It's just the sort of the chronological order, but it could take place over a month. Prepare affidavit. Obviously, like I said, you're going to register the contracts against the title. And then when it's 3 months out from the time that the tenant is supposed to buy it, you send them the document and they would fill it in that they're going to exercise their option to buy it, because you need to know that well in advance. So you can start all the paperwork for the lawyer. Then you complete the transaction at the very end, and then you celebrate. So these are kind of the steps when you've got two things going on at the same time. You've got the house, you've got the tenant buyer. It sort of encompasses both things. Like I said, I have to make the change in that one thing, because I won't deal with it. I won't even show a tenant buyer a property until they've gone through the process. It just doesn't make sense. So this is calculating the profit in a sandwich lease option. So the question is, how do you handle the owner's question about the 3.5 months? Very similar to the way a realtor would handle that question. When they get the property, put a property up on the market. So these properties aren't always vacant, for one. Some of them are vacant, some of them aren't. People still live in them. So people still could be living in them while you have it under contract, while you're trying to find somebody. But if it is a vacant property, it would be the same scenario that if it went up for sale on the MLS. So you do your very best to find somebody to get in there as soon as possible. And even if it's a realtor looking for a buyer, typically, even if they get somebody relatively quickly, it's still going to take probably 45 to 60 days for them to actually close on it. And that's if they're pre-qualified, because the banks will end up, the mortgage brokers or the banks, the lenders will keep going back and forth needing more documentation a lot of times. So even if they were to put it up on the market and sell it, it's still going to be probably 90 days before that whole transaction were to take place. So it's no different. You still need the time to find the person and get them in there. So in reality, it's no different than if they were to put their house on the market for sale. That's how I handle it. So calculating profit in a sandwich lease option. Let's say the fair market rent on a house is $1,800. Fair market value is $380,000. So through negotiations, I got the house at $1,600 rent. So I show the homeowner, you know, this is because we're covering all the repairs and maintenance. You don't have to pay a property manager, all these things. I think that's worth something, so I need to rent it for $1,600. My purchase price is going to be $360,000. And then how do you justify that? Well, they're not going to have all the selling expenses. There's not going to be any rental expenses during that term. It's not going to sit vacant after it's been rented. That it needs to get fixed up and put on the market, so you're saving money there. There's lots of places where they're saving money. So even at $360,000 with me, they'll end up making more money, putting more money in their pocket than they would selling it traditionally at $380,000. Going to do a 3-year term. Like I said, we're going to be responsible for $1,000 of repairs and maintenance. Going to give the homeowner $100. I think there was something missing there. Calculating the profit. I think I'm missing a sheet. Sorry about that. I must not have finished this. I don't know. So I will actually add that for tomorrow. How to calculating the profit in a sandwich lease option. I guess I'm doing that tomorrow because I didn't finish my PowerPoint for some reason. So sorry about that. So either tomorrow or Friday, I'll show you how to calculate the profit in one of these deals. I'm sure most of you have a good idea. It's the difference between what you pay the owner and what the tenant pays you. That's where the profit comes in. So it's just the difference. So obviously, the better deal you can get from the owner, the more profit you're going to make on the entire deal. But we'll go through that tomorrow. Like I said, tomorrow is presenting and negotiating. So we'll dig into that. I'll make sure I actually, after we go through the negotiation part of it, I'll make sure that I actually fill in, do a presentation on how to show you actually to see how you'd make the money on one of these deals, on a sandwich lease deal. All right. So that's everything I had for tonight. Does anyone have any other questions that I can answer for you for tonight? Anything on, so what do we cover so far? Just opportunity, obviously, on Monday. The strategy, lease option. Yesterday was marketing. Anything on marketing, anything on ads, putting your ad together, anything there. Today was how to make $10,000 a month, doing 2 deals a year, and screening tenant buyers. Anyone have any questions on any of that stuff? Tomorrow, like I said, we'll be presenting and negotiating with the homeowner. And then on Friday, we'll get into how you actually structure this deal. Like we'll do the 30,000-foot overview of what the corporate structure and all the agreements would look like if you just mapped it all out. How does that look? As well as what contracts you need for the homeowner, what contracts you need for the tenant buyer, and some of the specifics on each contract. So we'll go through that information as well. Stuart says, interested in understanding more how to prevent problems if you're moving into the property yourself. Well, there's no problem if you're moving into it, Stuart. The only issue is if you're going to actually want to buy it at the end. But there's no problem with moving into it. The owner doesn't know who the tenant is anyway. So it doesn't matter if you're the one moving into it. That's no big deal. Just if you want to structure it to actually be the one who's going to buy it in the future. Because I would move into these things because remember, I'm getting that below fair market rent. So for me, it was a good deal because I'm paying less than fair market rent on a property because I just didn't want to buy a place because I travel quite a bit. So I didn't want to have a place sitting vacant all the time. So it's like, well, I'll just stay in one of my lease options. But and it was cheaper. I'd stay in a nice place, less expensive than actual rent. So so the only issue is if you actually wanted to purchase it at the end, that's where there would be an issue, and you can overcome those just in how you structure your corporation. So as long as you're not any person associated with these corporations, other than being, you could own 100% of the shares, just can't be the president, the director, the secretary of like the numbered companies. Your name or your family's name can't appear on, you don't want it to appear on any of it, just because then they could say that they won't allow you to purchase it using this. But you can get into it, and instead of, obviously, if you're going to save your own money for the down payment, you can just save it in a bank account or put it in RSP. And just before you're ready to close, that's probably the smartest thing, is you put it all into an RSP over the next 3 years, and then you just go to the bank and say, take it out of the RSP to buy the property. So could you get a home inspector to do the inspection for you? Okay, so yeah, one thing I didn't talk about is inspection. I don't actually get the inspection. I don't pay for an inspection to get done. Whoever the tenant buyer is that's going to go into the property, I tell them, before you go into this property, this is your one and only chance to get an inspection done. Because once you're in this property, you're committed to buying it as it is. So pay to have a home inspection done on the property prior to moving in. So they would get one done. They would pay for it, not me. And I say, if there's any major issues, you need to give me a copy of the inspection report, and I have to go to the homeowner to get stuff dealt with. So that's what we do. We always get, Nathan, we always get an inspection done on the property, but I never do it. I always make the future buyer pay for the inspection, just because I don't want to pay for it. I make them pay for it because once they're in the property, they can't get one done later. So they have to do it before they get into the property. Carol asked, do I typically only lease option single family? I lease option single family, townhouses, apartment condos. It's whatever I can basically get my hands on that I think I would have a good chance of putting a tenant buyer in. Now, if it was an apartment condo that was a condo conversion, it's a rundown area, I might have second thoughts about it. But if it's a basic, is built as a condo, some owner has it. Either they bought it as a rental and that's not working out for them and they want to do this, great. Yeah, so condos, no problem. Townhouses, no problem. Half duplexes, no problem. Do it all. Commercial, do that too. You can option land. That's where this originally started, way back in the 1900s, I think, was farmers optioning land. That's how most of the land developers do their get land is through options. A lot of them. So after closing, do you use your numbered company on another property or dissolve the corporation? Typically, you can just close it down, because the option company, you're not generally, okay, again, I'm not giving legal advice, I'm not giving accounting advice, but since we never file taxes on an option corporation because there is no activity, all that corporation ever did was hold a contract. You can just let it dissolve itself. If there was no, it could be a risk if even if there was no issues in the deal that closed. And I say, well, geez, well, nothing happened. I mean, I just reuse this corporation because nothing happened during that deal. But you never know if it'll come back. Somebody will want to sue for something, and you would hate to have like another option contract in there, and then all of a sudden you get sued. So again, not legal advice, but our practice is typically just dissolve it, shut it down, and get a new one. All right. So I think that's going to be it for tonight. Thanks everybody again. I'll see everybody again tomorrow, same time, same place. And tomorrow we'll talk about presentation and negotiation. And if you have any questions, definitely just type them in the chat, in the comment, let me know. Send me a message. If it's longer, doesn't matter. If you want me to take a look at your ad, send that along as well. But yeah, anything I can do to help, or if you have questions on anything, just let me know. It's what I'm here for. All right, so thanks everybody for tonight, and look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. All right, have yourself a great night. Take care.